Hey everyone, and welcome back to Splash Page. I'm Sean, and as always, I'm joined by Andrew. And today what we're going to do is go over the first season of Invincible and compare it to the comics and see where there are big differences and list the top 10 differences we see between the show and the comic. So coming in at the number one spot, one of the big changes we noticed is the different way that they handled the characters William and Amber. So first we'll break down the differences with Amber. Amber in the comic, in my opinion, is a very one-note character who is simply there to cause a little drama as well as play kind of the teenage sweetheart of Mark.
Yeah, they don't really go much into her background in the books. You're right, she is very one note, and the book's not about her, so she kind of doesn't show up, but the show gives a lot more space. And I get the feeling, not that it's a good thing or a bad thing, but just the difference in the way a comic book and a television show is written.
Totally.
Especially a television show based on a pre-existing work. Now he's written the entire comic book, and they're rewriting it for television. They could really go into her background and set up who she is right from the beginning.
Yeah, one thing that really nods to the difference between the show and the comic is when Amber finds out that Mark is invincible.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the last straw of him constantly missing stuff, and she's figured it out already, so she feels like she further lies to him. In the comic, it's like a complete turn on, and she's like super happy and wants to like show off her superhero boyfriend to everybody. So that's a big change there with Amber. And William, too, to a lesser degree, William was pretty great in the comics. It's just you get so little of him, you don't really understand who he is. Right. And the show just kind of hit fast forward on his character, and he's really well developed and not just kind of Mark's friend from high school and college roommate.
And coming in at number 2, we've got the Mauler Twins introduction. On the show, they're the first thing we see at the White House attacking the president, and they're stopped by the Guardians of the Globe. But in the books, it's a little more shady what they're doing. It's kind of night out. They're sneaking into a warehouse to steal game box processors to use.
Yeah, it's a super smart change because
yeah.
I remember when I was reading the comic too that they're like, yeah, stealing Xboxes and kind of using the technology and that to build something crazy. And it's like, what's really in an Xbox that's going to allow you to build something that's...
And it seemed like they were just stealing them to sell on the streets almost. Mm-hmm. Like it was a really dumb introduction to some pretty cool characters.
Right. Yeah, the key to that difference is in the comic, they use the Mauler twins as kind of fodder for Mark's first bigger fight and meeting the teen team. In the show, they kick off the whole first season by saying that these are major bad guys, and they're actually attacking the White House. So it just sets them up completely differently. Not only are the stakes bigger, but it just makes the show feel bigger if it starts with like guys stealing Xboxes. Like, give me a break. So again, I think that was a good change. Coming in at number 3 on our list of major differences is there are really lacking in the amount of crossovers and Easter eggs that they have in the show. And that's likely due to, rights issues and other legal things that they couldn't possibly pull off on the show. But at the same time, it's kind of disappointing because that was one of the great things about the comic, where almost every other page there's something hitting in the background or something or a character that walks on the page that talks to you and you recognize him from somewhere else. That's just kind of completely missing from the show.
Yeah, you could definitely in a comic book put a background silhouette of Bill and Ted from Bill and Ted's Great Adventures or April O'Neil from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles without saying that it's them and call it a parody. Whereas if you put it on the show, you've got to pay for those rights. And there's really no reason to other than like a cute wink. That's an expensive wink.
Mm-hmm. And even things that Kirkman had worked on before, which were in the comics pretty significantly, because they are kind of owned by separate parties, they couldn't be used. So Seance Dog in the show is really Science Dog in the comic and has a larger role at certain points. Savage Dragon shows up in the comics quite a bit, is not shown up at all in the show to this point. So we don't have to go into all of them. We do have a video that we created before the season started because, again, this was one of the most fun parts about Invincible, especially early on, that they did all these Easter eggs. So we'll link the video below. So if you want to check that out after you watch this video, it's right there for you.
Coming in at number 4, we've got Invincible's name. In the show, we have that moment where Invincible's flying with his father, and his father has the line, most kids your age think they're invincible. The only difference is you are. And he has that light bulb moment. Now, literally word for word, the same thing happened in the comic book, except he got it from his principal after school when he was talking about catching up on homework he had missed because he was off fighting bad guys.
Strangely enough, that's one of the Easter eggs that they kept in Reginald Vell Johnson High School, as well as Principal Winslow. So happy they did keep that in there in the show, but yeah, they minimized that role significantly, and we end up getting the name Invincible from the conversation with his dad, which I'm not going to complain about too much. It
makes more sense story-wise, to be honest.
Yeah. The fifth big change that we noticed was we can't tell what Nolan did for a living in the show world other than being a superhero.
Yeah.
In the comic, they do a great job of setting up how the superhero world works. So essentially, Nolan in the comic is a novelist, and he writes fiction novels, and that's how the family gets paid. That's why they have a nice house and cars and tax forms. It's not just he's a superhero.
Yeah, it's a good cover story that they put in there. He's, as the Beatles said, a paperback writer. But
nice. It's important in the comic as well that he is a writer, because his books become an important clue for Mark later on. So without that plot point being clearly defined before Nolan leaves Earth, we will have to expect that that's not going to be a part of it.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll come up with something that'll make it work.
Yes, absolutely.
Coming in at number 6, the bomb chest storyline, which we've also done a little video on, the missing storyline from season 1. We'll link that as well. But that's literally the first thing we see in the first issue is that guy with a bomb on his chest, and the teacher who's involved in that whole thing, and that storyline is just missing from the show.
Yeah. I mean, we did do a full video covering off on it, so we won't touch upon it too heavily here, but it's kind of one of the first long-standing saga pieces of this, where it's a 4 or 5 comic book story arc.
Yeah.
It's just completely removed from this show. The 7th biggest change we noticed is they kept Nolan around for the entire first season, when in the comics he is discovered to have killed the Guardians of the Globe around issue 9 or 10 and is gone by issue 11. And doing that, you then have a bunch of different scenes and storylines that involve Nolan that you didn't get in the comics. So you get to know Nolan a lot better. And actually, it made him a lot more kind of devious in the show than he was in the comic. Because, after he kills the Guardians of the Globe, it's only 2 issues that he's kind of hiding it, and then he's gone.
Yeah, I don't want to call him a one-note character, but they do add a lot in the comics. But they do add a lot of depth in the show, just to the lengths he would go to lie about what he's doing and to cover it up, and how he deals with people accusing him of the murders, and when Damien Darkblood says he knows, how he deals with him, and when Cecil kind of knows, how he deals with him. So yeah, it really goes deeper into his psyche on what kind of a, I'm not going to say human, Viltrumite he is. Yeah.
And I mean, all in all, another great change. J.K. Simmons is phenomenal. You're not going to pay him to use him for 2 episodes and then have him fly off. The key thing for me here is, you get to kind of know Nolan a bit better, and it's not necessarily in a way that you feel bad for him. It's almost like, God, is this guy the real villain of this whole show?
Yeah. Coming in at number 8 is the Damien Darkblood storyline, which, if you want to see me do a bad impression of a film noir private investigator doing a character study, we've got that video up too. But yeah, his whole storyline is completely different on the show as in the comics. In the comics, he's in 3 issues. He shows up, he says, I don't know who it is yet, and then towards the end, he says, I think I'm on his tail. And they're like, we already know. We saw what Omni-Man did. On the show, he's a little bit smarter. He gets there quicker and has his back and forth with Cecil.
They gave a lot more storyline credit and screen time to Darkblood on the show than they did in the comic. In fact, the first time I read the comics, I would almost not even pay attention to the panels that he was in, and nothing against the character. He just was always like one panel on a page full of other stuff that would just mention him or bring him up.
And he wasn't.
It's almost a non-starter.
And he wasn't even artistically interesting in the book because he was just a ripoff of Rorschach from The Watchmen.
Yeah, so. complete throwaway character in the comic, but really one of the better ones. A lot of people comment that Darkblood was their favorite character. So Andrew, you specifically so from the whole first season.
That might just be my love of film noir, but loved him.
There you go. The 9th biggest change we saw is that Mark has a level of anger in him that I don't think we see in the comics, especially not this early in the comics, where he kind of almost goes Super Saiyan on a few occasions. And the big ones that stand out to me is in the school when he just gets his powers, the bully comes back to pick on him, and he just lets the bully punch him in the face constantly and just like sitting there staring at him. When he's fighting Battle Beast and Machine Head's cronies, he kind of like blacks out for a minute there and was able to like beat the crap out of a few of them for a couple minutes before Battle Beast steps in and does what Battle Beast does.
They kind of set that up real nice, his kind of Hulk moment, you won't like me when I'm angry, where he just gets that extra burst of energy. But they kind of set that up perfectly, maybe just for that Battle Beast fight, just to turn the tables to say, look, he's about to do it again. He's got his super strength with his anger, and he's gonna. Oh no, he's not. It's not gonna work out for him this time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's because he gets very angry several times in the comic, and you know when you're angry, he's gonna have more strength. But it never came across like that, specifically in the early comics, because he's such a he's a teenager, he's a young kid, he's joking around more than he's being serious. So. Just another thing to keep in mind, that maybe they're moving the whole show in kind of that darker direction and giving Mark more anger and more adult situations than the comic.
After the season 1 finale, I would not be surprised if that were the case. Yeah.
Right.
And coming in at number 10, we've got the Cecil Nolan fight.
Yeah, this is about half of an episode was spent on a fight between Nolan and Cecil's toys.
Yeah.
Which just did not happen at all in the comics.
Well, Cecil didn't even have an army of Reanimen in the comics. Yeah.
No, to my memory, he didn't have the army of Reanimen at that point. He didn't have a laser in space, and he most certainly did not have that Cthulhu monster thing.
Right.
All of which he's able to unleash on Nolan in like a moment's notice, which, they end up fighting. Nolan obviously wins because he's Omni-Man. The thing about all of those is that Cecil actually didn't know Omni-Man was the one that killed the Guardians of the Globe until, I believe, the Immortal comes back and starts fighting him in the sky. In the show, he has a really good idea that Nolan did it by like episode 4 or 5. So I guess they had to do something for Cecil to make it seem like he's not just an absolute pushover or super afraid of Nolan.
Yeah, he was.
And they gave him all these toys to
like he told Darkblood right before he disposed of him. You need to keep it gray. He was the government guy that's like, I know the answer. I don't want to hear the answer. I'm going to deal with the answer in my own way. I'm not going to I'm not going to do what you do, Damien Darkblood, and walk up to the strongest man on Earth and say, I know you murdered. I'm going to keep that a secret until I could use it to my greater advantage. And he definitely did in that fight. Up to it, including using his own superpower, the taxpayers' money, where he was teleporting himself back and forth on a rock, which in the books they say that's $5 million a teleport. So that's got to be like
every teleport,
$25 million just for the teleportation part of that fight.
At a minimum, I think he did it like 10 times. That was awesome though. It was a great fight.
It was worth it. I'd pay for it again.
Yeah. So Andrew, out of the 10 differences that we identified, what is your thinking as far as how many of these were good changes?
Well, let me go back over these real quick. Honestly, I think all of them were good changes. Were there any that you didn't like?
I think the one I didn't like, and it's not really fair, was number 3, which is the lack of crossovers and Easter eggs. Again, we identified that's for legal reasons. I think anything that was plot driven was well done. Everything that the writers of the show had in front of them and had to make choices, they made the right choice and really made it a very popular show. I mean, it got picked up for 2 more seasons. The fan base is absolutely phenomenal. It gives us something to talk about once a week at a minimum.
Still.
So all in all, these were great changes. And we're looking forward to see what they do for season 2 and 3.
We've done a couple of these videos separate, a couple of those character studies. It's good to be back talking with you again on this. This is the fun stuff.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, same. Well, thanks everyone for joining today. I hope you enjoyed this video and got to see a little bit more about the comic as opposed to just knowing about the show. Also, as a reminder, we are still doing the giveaway for the 2 Invincible Skybound toys. Once we reach 1,000 subscribers, we will be giving away a toy to 2 different people, so you'll have a 1 out of 500 chance of winning. All you have to do to enter is to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment. One additional note, we are doing reviews for the new Netflix show, Sweet Tooth, which premieres on June 4th. So check that out and check out our videos. It's going to be a phenomenal show. It's a great comic that both Andrew and I really enjoyed. So make sure you subscribe for that. Otherwise, thanks again. Hopefully we're keeping the trend of Invincible Friday alive for you guys as we just miss the show so much. We're going to keep doing videos, hopefully every Friday on Invincible. So
we'll keep doing them until you tell us to stop.
Right. I'm Sean, that's Andrew, and we'll see you guys later.